All right, so at the same time the Alamo's going on, they're up in East Texas, which is where most of the Anglos are. They are look, they're talking about um, we gotta have full independence. Forget this this Constitution of 1824. No, we gotta have full on independence. Let's go for everything. Okay, so that's what they basically are coming to in 1836. And as you get more and more people coming in to fight in the war with the Anglos from the United States, they're all saying, look, it doesn't, who cares about that Treaty of 1824? Look, we're not going to be able to work with the Mexican government, which wants to outlaw slavery, and we want to bring our slaves with us. So, no, we're going to push forward with the whole thing and full independence. Okay. And so in March of 1836, March 2nd, right, but while the Alamo is under siege, but before the final assault has begun on March 6th, Texas declares its independence from Mexico, okay? And it has a Declaration of Independence, it writes, mimicking the Jefferson Declaration of Independence. It has a Constitution, it writes, mimicking the United States Constitution, but it also more clearly protects chattel slavery, okay? So it's not a good thing. All right, look, okay, and then the other thing that happens is once they do this, right, and they say, look, we're defining an independent nation here, they kind of start to lose Hispanic support. Not all the Spanish-speaking rebels go to the Mexican side, but a lot of them do, because it's like, well, we don't really see where our voice is in this. This is clearly something that's going to be dominated by the Anglos and by especially the white supremacist faction, which is the dominant one now because of all the people coming in from the South recently to fight in the war. Okay. So now we're fighting for Texas independence, all right? Not just the confirmation of the 1824 constitutional rights with Mexico. All right. Now, the Texas Army is under the command now of Sam Houston, okay? And Santa Anna is advancing north into East Texas towards the main settlements of the Anglos, and Sam Houston is always moving back, retreating backwards, as are all the settlers, okay? The idea is to pull Santa Anna into geography that's more amenable to Sam Houston and to the types of fighting that his men are used to, more in like wooded areas, a little more hilly, that sort of thing. And that's going to be better for him, maybe a little more guerrilla war tactics versus Santa Anna has a cavalry, which is, hard for the Americans to compete with because they haven't trained with a cavalry, all right? So Santa Anna's moving forward and Sam Houston's moving backwards. And Sam Houston's men are like complaining, like, can't we just go in and fight? Like, what are you waiting for, right? All right. Well, Santa Anna is kind of like trying to catch up. And he makes this big mistake, which is he divides his army into two, okay? And sends them out to look in different directions to try to find Sam Houston. Well, this allows Sam Houston to attack Santa Anna with about equal numbers, okay? Because he's only attacking half of Santa Anna's army, all right? So the Americans are able to capture a Mexican courier. They figure out that Santa Anna has divided his army, and then they realize that they are now ready. This is the time to attack, if ever. And so on April 21st of 1836, this is close to Houston, near the San Jacinto River, they attack Santa Anna's army. And Santa Anna had not set up a guard to protect the soldiers while they were resting, okay? And so here come Houston's men shouting, remember the Alamo, and they surprise the Mexicans, and the Texans are really not in a mood to take prisoners, right, because of the recent thing that happened at the Alamo, and it's a pretty brutal thing that happens on the part of the Texans here against the Mexicans. All right, now the Mexicans lose about 650 men are killed, and then about 700 taken prisoner. That was basically most of the men that on the Mexican side that were involved in the Battle of San Jacinto. So a huge, devastating loss for the Mexicans, and Santa Anna is himself captured. And he promises that he will withdraw his army beyond the Rio Grande River, okay, which was actually farther south than where the original border of Texas was recognized, okay, and basically agrees that to grant Texas their independence, okay. Well, when the Mexican Congress is then considering the question, the treaty that's been drawn up after the Battle of Jacinto, they don't recognize it because they say, look, Santa Anna agreed to this under, stressful circumstances in which his own life was at risk, so we don't recognize this treaty. And so warfare is going to be continuing between Texas and Mexico intermittently for the next several years, okay? Mexico's twice going to reoccupy San Antonio, but never be able to hold the city. And so ultimately, Texas independence is going to be recognized. The capital will be established at Austin. Now, it would have made more sense to put it at Houston or at Galveston. There were more people there. But they wanted to sort of put it further west as a sign of, look, no, we are moving west. Okay, we're not going to stop. All right. And then in October of the same year, 1836, Sam Houston is elected then president of the Texas Republic. Okay. Stephen Austin had also run, but he was kind of like this old-fashioned guy at this time who didn't really understand, he didn't understand how now slavery was like the thing, basically. And if you weren't fully on board, so he had defended slavery, but he hadn't maybe done so in the most aggressive way or whatever it is. And he, of course, had also really been fighting the war originally to preserve the Constitution of 1824. So he seems like this old-fashioned guy in 1836 at the end of the war. And Sam Houston is the guy that won the war. So Sam Houston becomes the first president. Santa Anna was, of course, disgraced by what happened at San Jacinto. And he falls from power, but he's able to regain power after the French attempt to invade the country in 1838. And he prevents that, okay? And he stays in power a few more years before he loses it again. All right, now, Andrew Jackson essentially basically supported Texas independence, and he supports it for the same reason that he supported the Indian removal, because he is generally in support of clearing land for white settlement, for the establishment of cotton farms and cotton production based on slave labor. Basically supports that. He remains neutral in the war, though. And part of why he does that is because he knows his vice president, Martin Van Buren, is going to be running for election in November of 1836, and he needs votes in the North, and the North does not like the war in Texas. The North sees, again, because of the anti-slavery newspapers, the North sees the war in Texas as just like a ruse to expand slavery and not something that is the United States government should be involved in, okay? So he doesn't come out in full support of it. He finally does recognize, and Van Buren wins in November of 36. And then Andrew Jackson finally does recognize Andrew Jackson finally does recognize the independence of Texas in March of 1837 on his last day in office.